proposed to be very tall. And of course, anytime there's a ULURP, everybody jumps in and tries to get as many community give backs, amenities, things that we can gain as a community board. What got caught up in that discussion, and in a good way for the most part, was the fact that for the last 12 years, the Harbor School has been without promised infrastructure for their program. The Harbor School is a maritime school that was born in Bushwick. And they were moved to Governor's Island to have access to the waterfront, which makes total sense. It's a maritime program. As you may know, they're working together with Governor's Island Trust and a bunch of other businesses and organizations in the Billion Oyster Project and many other things. The students graduate with a certificate, and the school is now an academic school in its own right. It wasn't always so academically strong. It's made incredible strides. It's more than proved itself. And there's a lot of kids that don't go for the maritime program now, but there's still a lot that do. They are now building a middle school because of how successful this high school has been in Brooklyn. And so we have been advocating all of this time, as has their very vibrant PTA, for this needed infrastructure that they never received when they moved them from Bushwick to Governor's Island 12 years ago. So when this ULURP came up, Margaret Chin really went to bat and brought into focus the fact that this pool had never been built. These students have been commuting back to Bushwick to be able to learn how to swim and dive, to be able to get the certificate to graduate with. This is unbelievable. I mean, honestly, the fact that they promised them the pool 12 years ago and never delivered and never even made an attempt to cite it is really just, unacceptable is the nicest word I can call it. Yes. So they also don't have a gym. And so the gym thing is really coming to a head in general, which is why I wanted to couple these tonight. They finally agreed. They did the deal at Governor's Island for Building 515. Building 515 is a very old building. It was a hospital. It has a courtyard that's 30 feet wide and about 100 feet long. Unbeknownst to us, when they agreed to build this pool, we thought the pool was going to be underground because they kept talking about the fact, oh, we can only do, how deep do you need? The school said 10 feet is acceptable. We'd love 12, but 10's fine. So we thought their water table concerns were because they were building this pool under the building. Well, it turns out the SCA unveiled finally its plan for where they were going to build this pool and gym that we finally got during the process of this ULURP. They want to stack them in this courtyard. Now remember, I said it was 30 feet wide, and they want to put a pool and a gym in a space. First of all, it's a historic building, very likely not to be square. It needs demo to be able to accommodate such a crazy thing in a courtyard. There are also height restrictions, and their decision to stack these two things is going to have significant impact on the proper functioning of both spaces, most importantly, the gym. So it was really, the news was so shocking that we had to set up another meeting because we couldn't properly respond, which we did. We had a second meeting. The SCA basically said, the discussion was, why wouldn't you build this gym on the lawn? The lawn to the building, in front of the building, is a very good sized lawn that can definitely accommodate the gym. They moved for those of you that have been to Governor's Island, you've seen the bike rental station. That is on the lawn, was at the lawn at Building 515. They moved that when I went over for the christening ceremony or whatever they call it. And so we saw that they were making way for the school at that point. They also demolished the sheds that were on the side of the lawn that we thought and proposed that the gym would go. So they've cleared this lawn and then told us in the meeting that the students would not have access to the lawn. They said the lawn is not part of the deal, that only the actual building is. This makes absolutely no sense. There's no other use that they're going to use the lawn for. They've removed the things that were on the lawn that were in use. They've relocated them. And we feel as though something disingenuous is going on. So we pressed them at the second meeting about this gym being on the lawn and the fact that we have very few regulation sized gyms. They're going to, their plan to build it in the courtyard is going to make it, 20 feet wide, no spectator space. They promised a gymatorium with a regulation sized gym because they also have no auditorium at Harbor School. So the plan really was a full-size regulation gym with a stage at the end of that. So this completely puts the kibosh on what was promised to them. And it really, it was a great shock. So we pushed back. We proposed that the gym go on the lawn. They told us it's a no deal. And basically at the end of our call said, if you don't like it, then we'll just pull the whole deal. And you don't get your pool or your gym. Obviously, this is not how we hope to be able to communicate with our city agencies. And, this is not an amenity. Again, you've heard me say this ad nauseum. This is infrastructure. These are parts of a school. This was promised infrastructure, and they're building half of what they said they would, and then telling us that if we don't like it, they're pulling the deal. So right now we've scheduled another meeting with them on February 14th. We have garnered the support of all of our newly elected officials very quickly because, as you know, they've just taken office. Chris Marte has been a great supporter in this quest, as has Senator Kavanaugh. We've reached out to Levine to help with this as well. We haven't been able to get a hold of him yet, Mark Levine. But we have been successful in rallying all of the other troops. And we are going to make a coordinated effort right now in getting the support of the elected officials, working on a strategy for our meeting, and really pushing hard for the SCA to deliver what they promised. In addition to all of these things, and we probably will create some more whereases in the resolution that you're looking at, one of them is going to be the fact that the SCA has forbidden the maritime program directors to communicate directly with the architects. It makes no sense because what is needed for this dive program is very specific. The deck can't be tile because they have to, lay down dive equipment. It will crack tile. There's all kinds of weight-bearing ramifications with building a pool that is for the use of dive instructions. There's a lot of mechanical engineering. And in addition to all the other things that the SCA surprised us with, they've also turned down the architect who has experience building on the island. They have gone with a firm for a reason they will not disclose that has never worked on the island to work on one of the most complicated feats of mechanical engineering they will ever do on the island. So we really have our work cut out for us over there with this initiative. So this resolution is one of several steps that we're going to be taking to carefully put together our strategy for going back to the SCA and pushing back on this and hopefully make some headway back to a reasonable solution for this gym and this pool. I've spoken at length with the PTA at Harbor School and Jeffrey Cherko, principal, Cass Stauschenberg, everybody over there, and we've had other phone meetings just with them. They said that, the competition pool they hoped to get was Margaret Chin's idea. Margaret felt as though if we were going to build this pool, why not build a regulation size pool so that other schools could use it, so that visitors to the island could use it when it wasn't in use for the school. We thought that was the direction this was going in. But then they said, no, we're not building you a competition pool. We didn't promise you a swim team. We promised you a dive program. So after speaking to the school, I think that they would accept a dive pool and let go of the competition pool, even though it seems like a tremendous waste of resources to not get a twofer out of this pool, because a pool is a pool in terms of what it costs to build it. Building it a little bigger doesn't cost anything. It really is, once you build it, those extra 3 lanes would be insignificant and provide a very significant impact to swim programming across the city. So it's not that we aren't going to still push for it. It's just that in efforts to get this to move forward, they said they would accept a dive pool built in the courtyard, but by building it without trying to stack the gym on top of it, they might have more flexibility for both the width. They might then be able to get some daylight into it. They can have a proper ceiling height. If any of you have been in a pool, if there's a low ceiling, it drips chlorine on your head. And so it needs proper ventilation. And the architects thought that stacking it was a really bad idea, the architects we spoke with who have worked on the island. So this is where we are. And I am now building out this resolution. These are the whereases that I have developed thus far. To the whereases, I would, add a couple of those points I just made about the specifics and what it means to build a pool on an island in terms of the mechanical engineering, that they need to facilitate communication, direct communication between the engineers, between the program directors and the architects, so that this dive pool actually is able to meet the requirements it needs. So I will be adding that, as well as a few other just historical facts about the school and about what's been promised to them by Governor's Island. We also, have asked for a meeting with the leadership at Governor's Island. We've spoken to a couple of people on the board. They were unaware of the fact that the lawn in front of the building was not part of the deal. So we're really looking for clarification on that. And then, obviously advocating that the school has that land. And I think that's all I need to say. If you guys have questions for me, it could flesh out things I might have forgotten. But the therefore be it resolved will be that we are saying we would like you to build this gym, a freestanding regulation gym on the lawn outside 515. We would like you to use the full length of the courtyard, not 60 feet, which is what they've suddenly told us the dive pool will be. We would like all 100 feet used for that pool. And, part of which will be 10 feet deep. And we need that dive well to be at least 12 feet in length and the 30 feet wide. So we're looking to confirm those things with our therefore it be it resolves. We are also going to have one of the therefore it be it resolves that the SCA facilitate communication going forward between our principals and program directors and the architects that are building spaces for those purposes. This shroud of secrecy and this game of telephone that they have created, where all communication has to go through people who have experience in building schools, but not necessarily um, you know, specific kinds of spaces that come with a lot of very tricky requirements. Um, and also, you know, pedagogically for schools, there are principals who know their demographic. They know that the kind of flexibility they need in their classrooms. And so not even all schools are created equal in terms of building classrooms and music rooms and art classes and what have you, and guidance rooms and libraries. The principals should always be weighing in on what gets built in their school. The SCA should want them to weigh in on what gets built in their schools. They talk about being so proud of their schools. You can't be proud of a school that doesn't meet the requirements of the programs that it runs. And so, you know, those will be some of the things that are there for it, be it resolved. And also, last but very much not least, is the fact that they were promised the lease. They were promised a signed lease in June. We still do not have a signed lease for this deal, if you can believe it. So they've already moved into design, but we have no lease. No one has been able to explain why we have no lease. They've made excuses. They say the lease is imminent and it's imminent. And I think we have a cause for deep concern over the fact that a lease hasn't been delivered when it was promised in June. Especially they're hanging over our head, the fact that they're going to pull the lease if we don't like their plan. So this is in a super iffy place at the moment. Like I said, we're going to be carefully charting our course through this process. So that's everything. Anybody have any questions? No questions.
Put my hand up, sorry.
There's Wendy.
So I like everything you say. I think what we should do, I actually listened to a radio when I was in my car one day with that Mark Levine was talking about various things, including doing audits of agencies that, you know, if anyone wanted to raise good government issues, he wants them to bubble up. And of course, I immediately thought of the SEA because, as you know, since the 150 days, you know, I mean, they've built the wrong thing and, you know, just over and over. And so I would propose writing a letter to you know, outlining that we want an audit, that I think besides putting this in the resolution, and maybe we do a separate resolution with all the examples that we know, just that we know. I mean, I'm sure there's more than the community board even is aware of because they're not communicating with the principals or the users of the space. And I think this example is the most clarifying to say, you know, well, it's one thing if you don't communicate with elementary school principals. What does an elementary school principal need? Or aren't they all the same? But I think this is a really good example to say, what is the reason? And I just, having sat through enough school construction authority meetings, I have always felt like the information flows one direction. It goes in, but there's never any information that comes out. And something's very shady. Even when you talk about the cost of the breezeway from 234 to the new annex, I think that ended up costing almost, you know, just shy of what, 900,000 or something like that.
Yes, and Lisa Rippinger got a bid for exactly what you're looking at
Exactly.
for $18,000.
Exactly. So I think, I will just tell you, I think they are corrupt. I think that their architects are corrupt. I'm going to just say it because we've seen example after example of that. They don't go. I mean, even at 150, when we redid the music room and we had the shop architect, you know, the founders of Sharp Architect were parents at our school and they offered to do all this stuff for free. And they were furious because they wanted the school construction authority to be paid. You know, it was just one of those, I mean, it was just, it's not right. So I think we should write the resolution, and then I would propose maybe writing a second resolution and, you know, shortly thereafter, and then send a letter asking for an audit. And, you know, I've been asking for an audit I mean, probably 5 or 6 years ago. But I
Well,
think
so
that
that's
this
fair. He
example,
said he was going to do an audit and he did not. And that is a disappointment. That was the time to really do it. But I do
I
think
think
our,
there's a thing that they're not doing, and I think we need to. I mean, I honestly it just smells. And now that we have all these new electeds, this might be a good time to do it.
I
So
think it's a very
wonderful.
good time to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
I just want to know if you can use the word egregious anywhere in there.
I probably could, Sarah.
Oh,
So
let's go.
I can add that for sure. Anyone else?
We also asked them for a better, I mean, not just the lease, which, that is alarming, but also timing of everything else, because yes, there's COVID, but the other thing is the process is very opaque. And remember Mike Maricelli, he would do this wonderful little dance dealing with all of us. I mean, he was a wonderful person. I don't
Mhm.
know who that,
It's Andrea Bender now, and she's completely the opposite of Mike Mirasolo. She's very straightforward, but she was the one that said, if you don't like it, we'll pull the deal.
well, I mean, I honestly think we should take that quote and we should put that in the resolution to say this is never acceptable when you're talking about infrastructure. And that this right there, I mean, I think the woman should be fired. That's the kind of thing that it's unacceptable. It should be, let's work together to figure out a way to get there. And I'm okay with being difficult and just saying, if if the mayor has to be involved, if we have to take this up to the highest levels, I mean, I just think that it's unacceptable to speak to you like that.
It is absolutely unacceptable. And it's a very fine line to walk because we have written to Eric Adams. Harbor School has written letters to everyone. And we haven't gotten results there yet. Lorraine Grillo, as you know, is a deputy mayor. That's going to hopefully work really well for us. And so at this point, I would be a little hesitant to call out Andrea in the resolution. I would like to give it one more chance
But
to coordinate our efforts.
I think you could say what was said to us, but not put her name in there.
I probably could say, I could probably phrase it some way that wouldn't be too condemning. I mean, the thing is, I really want the pressure. I'd rather that go to the mayor's office and have that come to her and the rest of them through that kind of pressure. Because she knows, I'm the one in the meetings. She responded to me. So if I put this in the resolution and send it to her,
She'll know.
um, she
Yeah.
will, and I think that there's better ways of getting that across, but I still, Wendy, to your point, I think I am going to put something in there that will be a teaser for when that is handled more directly from the mayor's office.
And I think
Um,
it's okay to say that there was turnover in the staffing of the over there. So communication has not been as clear as it has been in the past.
right, that's a good idea.
I'm wondering also if you happen to have the demographics for the Harbor School. I think that might be useful
Well,
too.
it's 69% minority.
There we
Um,
go.
yeah,
How do we work that in?
well, we certainly can work that in. I mean, I think that could be useful. I didn't see it as something that was, it was in our resolution when we talked about advocating for the Harbor School pool that we did several years ago. We talked about all the attributes of the school then. This one is really focused on do what you said you were going to do. But we can put a little bit more of that in for sure. So
I
let
think
me,
reminding the mayor where this
yes,
came from and who it's supporting might
yeah.
be.
And especially because it's swimming. I mean, I think it goes back to every student in that school has to learn how to swim, right?
They do, and they travel 3 hours a day to go to Bushwick, and right after they've been moved out of Bushwick. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that that needs to be its own. I mean, it's just,
And they've been paying to swim at Stuyvesant and BMCC. I mean, it's just totally outrageous, everything about it. Um, so, so I'm going to put that in there too. Swim.
and I think we should say in there again that, a maritime school that requires all of their students to learn how to swim should have all manner of swimming activities. I know they're not going to have a, diving off the diving board, I mean, although they should, because that's part of a swim meet, but they should have, a full size regulation swimming pool.
Their argument was with the full-size regulation is that that's a swim team thing.
Right.
And
Again, don't have a swim team because they don't have a pool, and they don't have a pool because they don't have, it's like that's a circular thinking. They would
well,
have,
it is, but they want the full-size gym more. And I think that there isn't room for both unless they demo the school,
or
which
they have that
honestly,
lawn, to your point,
what's that?
or they use the lawn.
They
They,
use the lawn for the pool and the gym.
I see. Well,
They have
there's,
great restrictions
okay.
on Governor's Island, which is why they were cutting the height on both of these spaces in the courtyard. I mean, they literally cannot build these two things on top of each other and feel good about it. It's just, it's the worst thing I've ever heard, really. And that's saying a lot. We've
Yeah.
seen some awful
Seems
things.
like bad things.
And I think also one of the whereases could be that the city is really looking to expand these CTE programs. And they have an opportunity to create a really strong example with this one. So
Yeah.
I'll also add that. And that's a diversity thing that mayors
Trisha, I
all,
have a question.
yeah, Bob.
Trisha, when when you first of all were any drawings distributed or any schematics? And when you say a meeting, who was the meeting? Who convened the meeting, and who attended the meeting?
So the meeting was between the PTA leadership, the program director at the school, Andrea Bender, myself, Tammy sat in on part of it, and Nan Richardson, who's the previous PTA president and who's been my main contact. She has stayed on the board to be able to advise them because she was the one that was there when all this came down, and she's really generously donated her time and energies to make sure it's consistent. So she was with us. And so I guess there were about 8 or 9 people told. There was someone else from the SCA that was there as well.
Yeah. Were there any drawings or schematics distributed?
There were, but we're not allowed to make them public. Suffice it to say, I've verbally told you what they are. The courtyard is 30 feet wide, about 100 feet long. It's an awkward space. The building is stone. I mean, think about that. Where are they?
So I'm having trouble conceptualizing it.
It won't be clear to see the drawing. So what I'll tell
but
you
there's
is
a-
that they have,
There's a courtyard that right now has grass in it, right?
correct.
And the building surrounds it.
Yes,
And they're going to put a 2-story building in the courtyard.
they are proposing to do that. Yes.
To put a 2-story building of a pool and a gym in the courtyard.
Yes.
And there's no other, okay. And there's no other land to put it on.
There's
Outside.
plenty of land. Plenty.
Yeah, yeah.
So the school thought, if you buy a house, the yard is also yours.
What goes on in the courtyard now?
There's just some mechanicals in there, nothing. Really, I don't think they can access.
Do people use that courtyard?
It's a good question. They might, I don't know if there's access to it right now. I think they more use the space on the waterfront side of the building. I think that's,
Yes, and said, but the windows in the school face the courtyard, some of the windows.
yes.
So now they're going to face a building, and the
Well,
building,
they're going to have to do some demolition,
yeah,
clearly.
the building is how the harbor school is how many stories high?
Um, it's 2 or 3, probably 3.
So the building they're proposing is let's say 50% the height of the harbor school.
Well, if you have 3 floors of a standard stone building from the early 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, you figure you're talking about 3 stories, 35 feet, 40 feet,
Right.
and then you're going to build a pool and a gym with that.
How high?
Now, a gym's supposed to have what, Bob? You know this, 35 feet,
Yeah,
right? So they've got
right.
40 feet to do the pool, the gym.
The pool's going to be underneath the gym.
Yes. Pools also need a high ceiling. It's
So the
actually
pool's
not
going to be
safe.
the pool is going to be subterranean,
Terrain, 10
and the
feet of
gym
it.
will be on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to dig down from the ground, from the level of what the building is sitting on. They're going to go down 10 feet from there, which the water table can handle.
Mhm.
So when you're at the ground level, you'll be diving into the pool from the ground level down. You won't be walking upstairs to then go into the pool, in other words.
Yeah, so the pool itself is below ground. The
Yeah.
infrastructure and the gym is above that pool. Quite a HVAC challenge.
Oh,
Um,
do you think? I mean, you have to have, like, the ventilation needed for a pool is very specific. I don't even know from an
I
engineering
know.
standpoint whether they've even gotten to engineering to be able to determine that this gym can go on top of this pool.
All right. Well,
You know what I
thank
mean?
you, Tricia. I don't mean to take up any more time. You described it very nicely, and also thank you again. I mean, sitting through this, you must be a real darling of the SCA.
Yeah, I can't say that they're really excited when they see me on the guest list, but I think at the
Yes.
same time, and Nan is the same way, when you have people that have historical references, you know what it's like to go into those meetings trying to sell something through that isn't the right thing, and you're up against the facts. It's very, very difficult. And I don't envy her as I didn't
Yeah.
envy Mike Mirasola. They're doing the devil's work, and it's someone else that's making these decisions. But my feeling on this and on gyms in general is it's lazy. It serves to negatively affect our sports programming. Um, and comes at a time where they keep talking about the importance of physical fitness and sports for mental health, and they are contradicting themselves. And to talk about, oh, we have beautiful dance spaces when you're in the same breath you're talking about not building a gym is not okay. And we are going to, I feel very strongly about this, as you can see, and I'm not letting up. And so we are going to get more support, and we are going to do everything we can until this is done. We cannot let this happen. This is a critical juncture, in my view, that we cannot continue to let the SCA mangle infrastructure for their building convenience. It's this, we came up with $10 million when someone wanted to find it, when there was a political interest, when the scales tipped in this whole ULURP, suddenly someone wrote the check at the mayor's office. This is what we need to acknowledge. This is what we need to pursue. We need to have a coordinated effort with our elected officials and get in quickly with our mayor, who has common ideals, and energize this project. And that's what we're going to do. So this is step one. And then the meeting, and the letters to the elected officials, and then a coordinated effort on our gym resolution as well, so that we can turn this around. They have to be thinking in a different way when it comes to school infrastructure and sports programming. We can do this. We are a very wealthy town. We have been able to release money. We have been able to figure things out. We have great minds in this city. We can do this. So you need the will to do it. So we just have to find some partners that have the will to get these things over the finish line, you know. Anyway, Rosa?
Quick question. I was wondering if you had reached out to Alice, because she's the rep for CB1 on the board at the Trust for Governors Island, and she might be able to help you on
I just
that.
wrote her a long letter with bullet points today.
Okay, good. And second thing, if you're talking about the building that the Blazing Saddles bike rentals was in front of, then I'm looking at it on Google Maps, and I see what you're saying. On the water side, there's actually just a big parking lot, or like, you know, it's basically just like pavement. And I remember in prior years they had used it as a skating rink area. I know that there's like a little restaurant thing that popped up there at some point. But it's not like it's just pavement, right? It's not like it's particularly precious to them, or that anybody's really using it for some enormous need. And it does offer, you know, noticeably much more clearer, less restrictive space than that courtyard. That's directly, you know, it's
It's not quite large enough. You know, Harbor School did a drawing of what they
Yeah.
would like to see happen to this property.
yeah.
And it's quite beautiful. I will also probably be able to share that at our next meeting. But they have, you know, they have areas put aside for certain things around the whole yard. I mean, everybody thought they had the yard. You have the building, you have the yard. And I think this is a great shock. People assume, since the Harbor School's on the island, that these kids are running out all over the island and they have this huge open space to, you know, just be in. It couldn't be any further from the truth. These kids are just as confined as our kids are in an office building school in the city.
That's so sad.
It's incredibly sad. And it's outrageous that they moved them there to have proximity to the waterfront and then never facilitated it. I mean, really unconscionable.
Yeah.
So 12 years later, we need to get this done.
Yeah. In agreement.
Michelle,
Okay.
did you have your hand up?
I just had a quick question, and you may have addressed this. I was reading through the resolution, but is it going to be thought of when it's, you know, being drawn up for people with disabilities? I'm thinking, like, I noticed with the demographics that 26% of the school has disabilities. I know that encompasses like learning disabilities too, but is that being, you know, making the pool accessible with a ramp so that people can go in? Just kind of about that.
That is part, you know, the accessibility in the pool actually is one of the things that isn't the problem.
Okay.
They do, you know, when you build to code today, building any pool, you have to do that. The one thing the SCA does do is pay attention to those kind of codes, even though they cut every other conceivable corner. They, by law, and they do have to pass buildings department.
Okay.
And so yes, so that will be there. Anyone else? All right. Well, if there are no other suggestions, additions, questions, and you know, we're going to be adding points about the demographic, about 69% minority. We're going to be adding what we were told was going to be happening. We are going to talk about the fact that Harbor Schools had to pay to swim at other people's pools. We're going to talk about the fact that the SCA and DOE has talked about expanding CTE programs. This Harbor School is one of the best models for that citywide in terms of their success and what they've been able to accomplish. We're going to add that maritime schools should have, you know, more than just the bare requirements to be able to graduate. They should facilitate, you know, a full range of maritime needs so that the school can grow. So I'm going to include those in here. Maybe a teeny bit more history about the school. And then we'll have our therefore it be it resolves that they need to build the gym on the lawn, that the SCA needs to clarify its deal with the Governor's Island Trust and make sure it includes this lawn. We are going to also have it be that they facilitate direct communication between the maritime program directors and the architects, seeing that they've never worked on the island before. We are going to ask them to build the pool in the full length, not 60 feet, and demand that they build that, you know, if they have to build in the courtyard, that is our compromise, and they let go of the very thing that they said they wanted to in the competition pool so it could serve the larger community. They'll accept that, but they would like to use the full length of that courtyard. So that'll be the therefore it be it resolves. And so if there isn't any further commenting.
I have just one other thing I'd like to mention, which
Uh-huh.
is the reference to the architects not building on the island. I'm personally not. I don't know enough about it, and I don't know if calling them out at this point would endear us to their sense of professionalism. I also would assume that the swimming pool would have a specific subcontract for another architect, a special pool architect. So I just don't know if it would be, might work to your, you're going to sit in on all these meetings, and I just don't know. I just don't know.
We don't need it. I can just say architect.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a thing. It's a definite thing.
But
It's
Trish,
going to-
maybe you should clarify why there needs to be an experienced architect because of the tile cracking and all that kind of stuff.
I could go deeper into that, but I'm wondering, as I'm hearing you talk, Bob, I don't know that we
Yeah.
need it here,
Yeah, I mean, it's not any time. I would, the one thing I would say is, which we don't know, is their fees are very generous. Just as for information and to make some of the architects in the room their mouth water. I mean, just the Battery Park City Recreation Center, if I got it right, had an $8 million architectural bill. Our community center had a $600,000 architectural bill. So the architectural bills are significant when you work for the city, and especially for the SCA, it's no different than anything else. The prices are inflated. But again, I wouldn't call it out at this point.
No, we can, that's going to be part of that resolution Wendy talked about. I think that's going to be a really great, important resolution to do now that we have a string of facts. And I'll be able to do that after my meeting with them and really have some compelling facts to work from.
For the life of me, I do not know why the New York Times or the New York Post have never done an expose on the outrageous costs of building schools in New York. I just don't know why.
It's way more than private construction. I was shocked.
Yes,
It's
shocking.
900 a foot. I don't
Yeah.
think the Jenga building was 900 a foot.
Corruption.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really outrageous.
it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
So, all right. Anybody want to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Want me to do a roll call, Tricia?
That'd be great, Lucy. Thanks.
Hey, Tricia,
Yes.
Sarah, Cassell,
Cassell, yes.
Wendy,
Yes. Chapman.
Darren,
Darren votes yes.
Eric,
Suarez, yes.
Kenny,
Kenny, yes.
Michelle,
Michelle recuse.
Bob,
Yes.
Andrew,
Zelter, yes.
and Sarah, the public member. For her here, did she leave? He did. Eight in favor, one recused. Carries.
All right, fantastic. I will be sending that for review. Moving on to the gym resolution. So this resolution I felt was necessary because of what happened at 150. This, I think, is going to have, I've been trying to think about the best way to construct this, but I think that what I'd like to do is have a therefore it be it resolved that we need to cite a freestanding regulation sized gym independent of 150. And I'll tell you the reason why. It will be for 150's use, but I think what we should be aiming for if the SCA is unable to build full-size regulation gyms, which Andrea Bender told me in our meeting, they're unable to build them a lot of the time now because of the kind of buildings they're building in. They simply don't have the footplate because of elevator banks, stairwells. They're working with architects who are building condominiums on top of them, office buildings. And so they don't have this open footplate, and they can't afford the ground level. It's way too expensive. It's the commercial floor, and it's where they make a lot of their income. So we're going to have more of these buildings where we walk in to an elevator bank, a dedicated elevator bank going up into our schools as part of these larger buildings. And I think we are at another critical juncture in New York City where if this is the case, that we need to jump now and say, if this is really what's going to be happening and that you can't build freestanding schools anymore and you want to build smaller schools, you're motivated to do private-public partnerships with developers. It really works out for them because they get the whole shell built out for them. If they want to do that, then they have to be thinking differently about the way they build their gyms. And, cite some examples, how many gyms we have, full-size gyms we have for the amount of schools we have, what that does to our programming, talk about the work that Bob and I did back when we talked about PS 150's gym and why we advocated for a full-size gym at that location. Talk about the fact that they backpedaled on it after they agreed to it. Talk about the fact that they told us in a meeting that going forward, the goal of the SCA was to build dance rooms, alternative physical education spaces that weren't gyms, because they can't anymore. Cite some data about the positive aspects of competition sports on the self-esteem and physical health of our children and mental health. And have it therefore be it resolved that the SCA moves to create independent, specifically cited freestanding gyms in neighborhoods instead of in each specific school, so that each community district has at least one freestanding regulation full-size high school gym for the use of the schools they are shortchanging. And I think we have a good chance of getting this to happen if we coordinate our efforts with the mayor and take the data that we have and take what they have told us at the SCA in terms of their plans going forward. And, how they get it done, we can, what's happening at 5 World Trade could be one of the ways they get it done. Their private-public partnerships. As these buildings are built with developers, they already have started that, and maybe that can also be included in it. Put that down there. They've already set that precedent. Um, and say it's time to be thinking this way if your plan is to shortchange all of our schools on gyms. So I'll open it up to everybody's suggestions, thoughts. You can tell me if you think I'm crazy, but I think that we need to do something about this.
So why do you feel optimistic? I think you're exactly right, but why do you feel optimistic?
Because I really feel as though we have enough elected officials and a new mayor that our timing right now could be very good on this. If you think about the impact of removing a competition gym out of our schools, which is what we're doing, and they're saying they're going to be doing it more going forward, just think about what that's going to do to sports programming after school. All the things that, in a city that doesn't have outdoor fields. Do you know what I mean? Like, we bring so much indoors into those spaces. We should actually be making them bigger. You know, I got to thinking when we started talking about, 5 world trade in terms of what's possible in an indoor recreation space like that. We should really be partnering with, the schools, school construction authority, the DOE, the mayor's office, developers. We should be partnering to expand that, not contract it. We're a city that doesn't have all that outdoor space other schools do to kick cans and kick soccer balls around at recess, and our gyms do that. And to be able to have our gyms provide competition sports that kids can actually qualify for college scholarships in, and we can develop sports teams that can compete across the state in a more vibrant way. We can have this opportunity to be as normal as a suburban school in that way, is, I think, something we need to be focused on. If we go in this direction of dance and alternative exercise space, I'm seeing urban flight. I'm seeing mental health issues increase. I'm seeing more shortchanging. I'm seeing a culture of shortchanging. Letting the foot plates dictate pedagogy. It's wrong. I just think it's something worth fighting for. And I don't even mind fighting for it and then ending up with compromise of some sort, but I rather just maintain high ideals, confidence, positivity, and then see where it takes us. But I personally think this is something worth fighting for.
Tricia,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find how to raise my hand, but one, I think it's a great idea and I think it is worth pushing for. I guess one question I have, we may need to take in density in certain areas. So there may be a high school who has a full-size gym, but that may not mean it's accessible to the other high schools in the immediate area that also need gym access. So just
Right.
something to keep in mind, that one in each district might not, it will certainly help, but it might not deliver as much value in some areas as we might consider.
Right. Well, maybe we don't even dictate how many. It might be that, it'd be nice to have some sort of set up some sort of expectation about how many we're looking for. But that's a good point, Andrew. I'll bake on that a little bit. If you have some ideas after the meeting between now and the weekend and want to shoot them to me.
I mean, maybe it's framed less around one per district and more about the infrastructure required to enable any school to have access to facilities for a sports program.
Yes, that's a great one. any school to have access, and then the geography takes care of itself then. I don't have to say per district.
Right, and maybe it's that we advocate that every high school should have a full sports program. That, I mean, so that dictates it, all those poor schools that don't have it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Especially now because being placed or getting into high school is so much more random than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And for students that are athletic, their chances of getting in a school that actually has an athletic program is much more random than it's ever been.
That's true too.
Since the principals don't have any input as to who actually comes to their school. And that's true of the middle schools, I think, as well.
Yep, that's a good one, Wendy.
And I would just argue on that point that we disagree with the direction that the city's taking. I mean, I don't know if everyone feels the same, but having 3 kids that went to 3 separate middle schools because they have such different interests. And I think now that wouldn't be possible from what I've been hearing from people. I think the direction is not good. So the kids who like dance may, it's a crapshoot whether they get a school that has the appropriate facilities, and the kid that plays basketball, might end up in the dance school.
Correct. That is a great whereas here. For sure. Anyone else? No.
Well, and I think that the idea too is that we should implore the city to partner with the school construction authority, because gyms are also used for emergency shelters and emergency gatherings and community gatherings. So, maybe they need a partnership in terms of budgeting, so that, the school construction authority says, well, yeah, we're building the gym for school hours, but somebody else has to pay for the after hours.
Right. I mean, in a perfect world, a lot of these schools rent out their gyms after hours, and that's great.
That's right.
And
The money
yeah,
type.
yeah, absolutely. And so why should this one be any different? And I do think partnerships are the way to go. They clearly haven't shown themselves to be an agency that knows how to run things,
No,
So they build things, but they don't run things.
they don't even build things with the user in mind.
A lot of the times they don't.
This is sorry to interrupt, but I just have an idea. Do you guys know about the Trust for Public Land and how they have a playground, sort of like school playground to parks, sort of like community accessible playground program? And they actually partner with the DOE and the SCA to provide those for significantly less cost than, say, the SCA would actually be able to do such a thing. I'm wondering if they might be, since they already partner with the SCA and the DOE, if they might be a great opportunity. Obviously, the work that they do is actually for exterior work, not for interior. But I mean, at the very least, it's a precedent that we could refer to.
What's the name of it, Rosa?
It's the Trust for Public Land.
Huh.
Carter Strickland is the principal for, I think, the Northeast.
Mhm.
And I can put you in contact. I'll do that actually as we're speaking.
It would be great to just talk to them.
Okay. I'll send that separately as an email right now.
Okay, great. I love that. Yeah, I think we need to innovate. I think, this is just like the whole world is changing and the SCA isn't. And it really, we got to move this needle. And when I saw that they overloaded the school with classroom seats, I realized that they're still using the capital structure of justifying the gym costs by adding school seats. They still have to go that way. They did the same thing at Millennium. Millennium had plenty of, they needed maybe 2 classrooms, but really what they needed was open space. They needed, they needed a gym, but they didn't have the room to do a gym there, but they needed open space for some sort of athletic, dance, whatever, on the 14th floor that they're building over there. And lo and behold, the plans come in and they have 14 classrooms. And Colin's like, what are you doing? I don't want classrooms. I only need a couple classrooms. Oh, well, if you get the whole floor, then we have to add 265 seats.
Bait
And
and switch.
everything is a
switch.
seat. Yeah, it's all seat. It's all bait and switch, because the only way they can give you anything is if they can say they've added school seats. Nobody wants the school seats. The Harbor School only needs 2 or 3 classrooms too. But
Well, and
guess what? They're getting 400 seats.
again, the user doesn't matter. The client doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. But you know what they're doing? If they're successful, which that's one of the things we're saying we should pull back from, is to demo part of this building and really consider building a full-size swimming pool, because we don't need the classrooms. And if they fill those classrooms, it will put such a pressure on the core spaces like the cafeteria. These kids are going to be eating lunch at 9:30 and at 2:30. They can't handle that many kids in their core spaces. So, and the SC doesn't think about that either. It's just this weird quest to add as many school seats as they can so they can tick that box and use it as a funding mechanism. It's absurd, it's outdated, it's irrelevant, and it needs to stop.
Well,
And we absolutely have to stop it.
I would like to add a little snarky. We should never be calling that group that does all that work portfolio.
Right.
And I would love to add in, a group that calls themselves portfolio doesn't look at children as humans and as with needs that are well-rounded. Portfolio sounds like a dollar bill that's being traded on the.
And the buckets.
That's right. I really feel their language dehumanizes schools.
Mm-hmm. It does. It takes it makes it possible for them to make bad decisions and disconnect themselves from the fact that they're working with children. Okay, this is all super helpful. Anybody else with points for the gym? Bob, do you have any thoughts there? From an after-school standpoint? Bob, have we lost you? I think we lost him. All right, I will be finishing this over the weekend.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I had to take a call. What, you were asking me something?
We put together the
Hold on,
gym
Katie.
resolution. I wanted to see if you had anything else you want to add from an after-school perspective.
Yeah, I read it. I think it's fine. I just think that it's a long slog. And, if we ever knew anybody who was involved in a citywide coalition on this effort, but I think it's a good resolution as it stands. And let's see what they do.
Okay. All
Thanks.
right. If there's no further comments, we can go ahead and vote on this one as well.
Motion.
Anyone?
I'd call the question.
Second.
Second.
Tricia, just for the record, Sarah, the public member, voted yes on the previous resolution.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Katie, I'll call you back, okay?
Do we need to do a roll call on this one too, Lucy, since it's our,
I'll do it. It's quick. It's only 8 people. If that's
Okay.
okay with you.
yeah.
Tricia,
Yes.
Sarah, Cassell, Did we lose her? I'll get back to her.
She did say she had to jump a little early today.
Sorry. Wendy,
Yes.
Darren,
Aaron votes yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Kenny,
Kenny, yes. Kenny, yes.
Michelle,
Michelle, recuse.
Townley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Belter, yes.
and Sarah, the public member. Sarah? See a problem with her audio. Sarah, yes? Tricia, do I take that as a yes?
Yes. There she
Yes.
is. Okay.
So you have 1,
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you have 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstain, and 1 recused. Okay,
Perfect.
motion carries.
All right,
public
everybody, I'm going to put these together over the weekend. I'll send them around. Please feel free to, add anything that you think of between now and then. I won't even start it until Saturday. So if you think of anything else, let me know. And I won't finish it till Saturday. I'm going to start it tomorrow. But just send it my way, and then I'll send it around. You can give any other comments. And then we'll go from there. And then I am going to put that SCA audit on next month's agenda, Wendy. It's a great idea. And I met with Chris Marte, by the way, and he is going to be a terrific advocate for us. So he did put in some budget requests for education for Lower Manhattan. There's a lot of things, a lot of schools have a lot of disrepair. He's already been around to all of our schools. He's really going to be a great advocate, I think, for all of us. So excited about that. Yeah.
Tricia, I have one thing I don't know if there's more on the agenda.
Not yet, really. I'm sure the Harbor School is going to go back on the agenda next month after this
No,
meeting.
I mean for this meeting. I just wanted
Nothing
to
else.
take a moment and introduce someone sitting in on this meeting who has applied for public membership. Gabby Sassone Ajami is community board royalty. She's on the call. She is Diane Lapson's daughter. She grew up in
Oh.
and she works for Manhattan Youth. Her husband Sal is the gym teacher at PS 234. And she's just, besides those credentials, she's an administrator, and she's really good at what she does. And so I just wanted to let everybody know she's on the call, and hopefully she'll be joining us for these meetings.
I hope so. We'd love to have Gabby. It's so exciting.
Tricia, would you like me to unmute her to say a few words or? no?
Sure, please.
Gabby, you're unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I'm excited to be here. And my daughter goes to 150 now, so this was a great start meeting. And I've been to a few community board meetings a long time ago when they were threatening to cancel our middle school after school program, our first program that I was running at 89. So I'm a little familiar, but I'm excited to get back into it, be involved in the community and help in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. We'd be thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any new business, closing thoughts, anything they want to add to an upcoming agenda? Okay, then I guess that's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tricia. Good job, Trish. Thank you.
See you soon, everybody.
Thank you, guys.